Hello, and welcome back to Stories Untold. I'm your host, Michaela. In tonight's story, we'll explore the twisted world of psychiatric units. Most of you know one or more individuals who have been diagnosed with mental health-based illnesses, and with this growing acceptance of mental health, you'd think this growth would apply across the board. Yet one ignored part of mental health care is pivotal in those suffering from more intense symptoms. This undefined frontier is the psychiatric units of the world. Little coverage of mental hospitals have been made, and many statistics are inaccurate due to inaccurate numbers being distributed from hospitals. This is one way hospitals cover up the abusive practices held within padded walls. Our sources on the inside informed us of these abusive and dehumanizing practices held within the walls from the first experience all patients have. An anonymous source has come forward to talk to us today about her experiences being admitted to a local Virginia psychiatric unit. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, tell me about how your admittance began.
Well, upon being first admitted, I was strip-searched. This was extremely dehumanizing, especially for someone who has dealt with sexual abuse in the past.
How do you think this set up your outlook on the rest of your experience being admitted?
It set the scene for much more to come, honestly.
Well, what was a part of that much more?
After the initial interaction, I was escorted to my room. I had not eaten anything that day because I had been at the ER. That wasn't what stuck out to me that night. What struck me that night were the living conditions there.
Could you further explain these conditions to our listeners?
Yes, of course. The hospital upstairs looked so much nicer than the hellhole below. The lights were bleakly fluorescent, and the bathroom doors were mats velcroed to the wall.
So, did you feel comfortable enough to use the bathroom, let alone feel safe while doing so?
I did not, by any means, but I also had no choice but to adapt. At a lot of times, I felt extremely unsafe and that my life could be in danger. I had no choice but to begin acting the ways they wanted me to and doing everything I could to stay safe.
In what ways did you feel unsafe while being admitted?
Well, in the unit I was admitted, there was no sectioning of any people. Men and women on the same level, convicts and the insane, all together, and sex offenders within the same hallways as me. Within the first day, I had a man flash me and ask for sexual favors. Then throughout it all, we had people awaiting trial speaking to us and threatening others.
Wow, I'm in shock. How did you cope with all of these stressors?
Well, I didn't, and most of these encounters still haunt me to this day. I always found it backwards with how a place marketed as being healing could be so traumatizing.
I am extremely sorry for your experiences and the abuse you faced as a patient. Now, after you're out and able to see the other side, I'm guessing you had some newly found perspective.
Yes, I do. Being out of the hospital has proved to me how many of these practices were illegal and unethical.
Well, what were some of these practices?
Well, with the assault I had witnessed and had inflicted, these cases should have been reported, and the perpetrator should have faced legal actions and been separated from me. Yet, these actions never took place. I felt so diminished, knowing these people could and would continue to harass and assault me without anything being done to stop them.
This is insane to hear, especially as a taxpayer whose money goes towards this abuse.
Well, that's where things get twisted. Some psychiatric wards are similar to prisons, being that they are privately funded. This means that the hospital profits off of more patients being admitted and held within the units.
That comparison seems scarily true. I know, like prisons, many psychiatric units have those adverse events you were speaking of that go unreported by officials. Why do you think that the prison system and psychiatric inpatient system are so closely related?
It's all about the money. America's a capitalist country, so all the companies and legislation act upon where the money comes from. And in the cases of prisons and psychiatric hospitals, the more people admitted and the longer people stay, the more money the higher-ups make.
I have heard about the injustices of the prison system, but never knew this carried out similarly to the psychiatric system. Well, to kind of wrap things up today, I have one last question. Do you think, with reformation, psychiatric units could be effective?
Yes, without a doubt. If more legislators made more laws to protect people admitted, without a doubt, it could be better. I'd say there should be higher concerns to separating people based off of sex, diagnosis, and if people have a criminal record or are facing charges. Another thing I would push for is giving patients more rights to care. Many admitted have little to no say about what their care should be. I know personally, doctors use scare tactics to make me take medications I knew I would have adverse reactions to. If I had more rights to my care, I could have stopped my doctors from forcing me to take medications that left me sick. Psychiatric hospitals, as now, are not for the people, but I hope soon that they will begin to mold into something people can truly heal with.
Gosh, that's a heck of a way to end today's story with. Thank you so much for joining us today on Stories Untold. I hope all my listeners today learned something and will continue this conversation with any people they feel need to know, and hopefully with legislators to really make this change for everyone who has been impacted. Until next time, I'm Michaela, and this is Stories Untold.